Welcome. I feel like recording a follow-up call from my invitation from last week on the weekend, where I invited you to stop limiting yourself and to choose one day during this week, or maybe whenever you feel called to do so. Maybe you've done it, maybe you don't want to do it, maybe you will do it sometime soon, whatever feels right to you. But I feel like catching up, continuing that conversation, not only because we are the creator of our reality, but what I am discovering right now is the importance, maybe that's the best word, for us to really witness and release our deepest beliefs that are no longer serving us. So here I'm talking about the so-called negative beliefs that we have picked up somewhere along our journey. And for me, when I do that game that I've mentioned, so setting very clear intention throughout my day, knowing that I have the clarity within, knowing that I am a confident being, that I'm worthy, that I'm deserving, then I do have, not all of the time, but sometimes thoughts coming up that are a total contradiction to what I just said. And obviously that's the kind of energy that I'm then putting out. And that's what is then reflected back to me. So for example, this morning, I woke up and I was in a very good mood. Like I felt really light. So I tapped in and I felt really light. And then like within a couple of seconds, maybe a minute, I felt like a brick hit me. Not physically, obviously, but like mentally, and it felt all foggy again. And I'm saying again because I do have that sometimes, and I'm realizing that that is different old patterns that I was so used to. Let it be in my so-called morning routine and how I am planning out the day, how I start the day. And those thoughts are definitely mine, because otherwise I wouldn't have them. And they're also amplified by what's happening in the collective. And they are part of the collective. So there are statistics out there as well that say 70% of our thoughts are not actually ours. We think they are, like I just said, but they are part of the collective, and they are so-called in the field, and we pick them up with our amazing antennas. And the reason why I feel mentioning that is I only heard that statistic like last week, I think, or something, and it put things into perspective for me, because sometimes I'm thinking like, okay, that is definitely my thought, like knowing, what kind of beliefs I have about certain things, and let it to be wealthy, for example. Like I have my certain dreams and desires, and one of them is also to have certain wealth, and not only financially, in all kinds of ways. And while I recognize and see and feel that on many, many levels I already have that, I want more. And I think that's also why we came down here to experience and have this human experience of always us wanting to have more in a different way. And that's what I guess allows our species as such to strive and to be here. And so I have that desire as well. And if I look at that and really feel into it, I know it's already here in different timelines. And so any thought that kind of comes in the way that tells me that's not possible because of story XYZ, that story happened in the past, or that story I heard from someone else, or that story happened to someone else and I read it somewhere, or someone told me about it. And so there are all these different factors that come into play and into our thought game. And while I spend, I guess, quite a lot of time to so-called control my thoughts, and then got really, really frustrated because it didn't get me anywhere. It was kind of overwhelming with however many thoughts we have. Was it 60, 70, 80,000 thoughts, something like that per day? I'm not sure what the statistics and numbers are for that, but a lot. So obviously to watch each and every one of them is kind of not the game that I want to play. There are people who are really good at that, but that's obviously not me. So what I'm choosing is to so-called reprogram my mind in a different way. And I guess it's also very popular and very common. And that is by new beliefs. That is by new thoughts. That is by new patterns, new habits. Like, recontinuing, in my case, to do more sports, to do more activities. So I love to be outside. I love to be active. And then I have phases where I'm not so active, or I just know that I need rest, and that is perfect. And I also know that there is a part of me that would love to do more sports. So that is for me an example in order to allow or to restart an old habit of doing more active sports. And the same thing for me goes with thoughts. So if I think about, let me keep that example going. So if I think about how we'll feel, how we'll look, how my body will respond, like all these things with regards to me doing more sports, that makes me feel really, really good, and that makes me and allows me to go and do. So for example, I like rowing. So then I do go and on my rowing machine and row. Like I have a rowing machine because I just love it. And so I go on that, and then I exercise, and then I feel really, really good. And that also allows me, while I'm on it, to have new thoughts. Let it be about myself, let it be about the things that I will be doing. So all kinds of things. And obviously if I have those kind of thoughts, my mind has less space to come up with, ooh, I'm not good at this, ooh, I'm too slow, and all those kind of things that maybe I would have said to myself in the past when I used to be way more competitive, let me put it like that. I think I still have some competitive patterns within me, which is fine, but I used to be quite competitive, playing lots of different sports on competitive levels in the past. And while I still enjoy some of those things, to watch them and to follow them, I don't necessarily want to be in them. Although beating someone at table tennis is still fun. Well, just putting that out there. So let's wait and see. But so for me, that is fun. And for me, that is a way to recreate what's happening in my mind. Because from what I said in the beginning, I think it is right now one of the biggest invitations that we have. And one of my personal deepest beliefs is that I believe some of those thoughts that I have because my mind tells me proof. So my mind tells me, hey, yes, you haven't done a lot of sports recently, so that's why XYZ. So my mind is very smart, and a lot of my very smart minds out there, and that's what the mind does. It is here for a beautiful reason and help us to be in this human experience and to watch out for things, and that's what it's really, really good for. And it's really smart. I love my mind. It's not that I'm fighting my mind, and like I said before, I don't want to control my mind. That for me is too much resistance. As I said, instead I prefer to start with new thoughts and to release thoughts that I no longer have, and to really look for the roots. So is it, for example, a feeling of unworthiness that's underneath? Is it a feeling of me not deserving? Is it a feeling of me thinking that I have done something wrong? That, for example, happened to me the other day, where I really felt like I did something wrong. And it wasn't the case, and there is no right and wrong in the first place, but that was the underlying thought and emotion that I had linked with that. And so I went into that and I allowed myself to release that and just saw it for what it is. And so the big reason why I felt to record this video is not only to catch up and to follow up the invitation, but also to really allow us to see how we are here to be the amazing beings that we are, to realize and to awaken while we are on this journey. That's why we're here, and that's why you're watching this video. You're one of them. You're one of us. You're one of, none of us are separate, and we are all on the same journey. And yes, we might be so-called on different steps, maybe in different timelines and all that, but we are all on this path. And for me, I'm realizing that that is on an even deeper level, and that they are the deep things that are coming up now. So one of my deepest beliefs is that I need to, and that I am believing those negative thoughts, meaning that there is a part of me, a pattern of me, let me put it like that, who's attached to those thoughts, who's attached and used to those negative old patterns, because it doesn't have any other reference point. And so, like I said, there are brilliant people out there who talk about reprogramming the mind, let it be Joe Dispenza, and there are many others. And their techniques work beautifully. And I'm finding for myself that I would like it to be even more for myself, that I would like it to be even more heart-based and heart-driven and more from my intuition. And so sometimes I have to be really vigilant and then say stop to the thought, and maybe even say it out loud, and then say, hey, I don't like that thought that much anymore. That might have served me in the past, but now it's time to let you go. Thank you very much for being here, and I see you, I feel you, I know what origin you have, and if I need to, I feel into that a little bit deeper. And some of those thoughts, no, that's not needed. Some of them can be very deep, but not all of them are that deep. And then let that go. And then that thought's gone, and my brains and my cells and neurocells and all that, they're slowly being rewired. And as you might know, but it only takes 21 days, I got reminded the other day, to form new habits. And our thought patterns, and saying to ourselves, for example, how wealthy we are, how wise we are, how smart we are, how healthy we are, that is part of reprogramming the mind. And for me, the most, or next to most important component, is to feel it, because affirmations as such, for me, are only truly valuable, that are what I've discovered on my journey anyway, is when I can feel them and when I know that that is my truth. And that is also why I consider that all these so-called negative thoughts are appearing for me, are appearing and happen for me. So they are here to be released. They kind of cover my truth. They cover my light. And there is nothing wrong with that, because my soul chose to come down here to remember. And while my human didn't agree. My soul agreed to not remember. My human kind of is figuring this still out, and that's okay. But like, I'm on this journey, my human is on this journey, and kind of mesmerized where this is going, not having a clue where it's going, but mesmerized and excited about where it's to come and where it's to go. And on that notion, coming back to how I woke up this morning and then all of a sudden feeling like it's super foggy and like a brick hit me, like it's my choice to continue on that path or to change my thoughts and therefore the emotions that are being triggered by those thoughts. And that's what I then chose, and that's what I then did. And yes, you might say, or people say, that requires a lot of awareness, that requires a lot of vigilance. And I'm here to say, yes, it does. And that's why you're here. And that's why you're watching this video till this moment. Because something in you very, very likely rings true to this. And you, maybe like me, are a little bit fed up with those negative thoughts that kind of make you feel like you're limiting yourself. And again, whether thoughts are innately yours or not, you were born as a beautiful being and you picked up many things on the way. You were born with 2 primal fears, only 2. And let me tell you, for example, the fear of being on the stage wasn't one of them. It was the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. And all the rest, all the other fears, stage fright or public speaking, I think it's officially called, for example, I think that's still very high up, statistically speaking, as one of the fears that apparently lots of humans have. And that's learned. Like the people who strongly have that and who maybe need to run to the bathroom several times before they go on a stage and speak, and I used to do that, so that's why I'm coming up with this. And I used to be quite afraid, but also that was a muscle that I trained. And just like all the things that I've been sharing with you now, you know, those new thoughts, those new habits, 21 days, I mean, that's kind of nothing. Like 21 days, that's like 3 weeks. I'm way older than 3 weeks, and there are many 3 weeks that fit in a year. So I guess my invitation goes out to you to really play with this and to allow yourself to look at those deeper underlying beliefs that you believe in, that you think are true, and then really realizing that that is something that you have learned and that it is okay to see it for what it is, that it's okay to see where it has brought you right here, right now in this moment, and that it's okay to let that go. And you know what? When you do that, you do a tremendous job for yourself and for the collective. The energy that you put out and that you release has a ripple effect. Then no other being needs to release that part, because you did it for them. Just like there are other people who are likely to do it for you without you knowing it consciously. So you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for all of us. So thank you for being on this path. Thank you for being so courageous. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Please let me know in the comments what you feel and think about this, and love you lots. Bye.